Hey, so this week I made Shredder from IDW Comics, and I'm going to show you how. So that's just a little reference image, and that's a 2012 Shredder that I'm warming up in hot water to make it easier to take him apart. So I took off the head easy once it's warmed up, then I used some pliers to take off the shoulder pads and then cut them down because they're going to go on his arms, but then I realized that those don't come off on this version of the Shredder. This one had a pointier like helmet, but his like ankle things didn't come off, so I had to change my plans on that and just trimmed off what I could with the knife, and now I use my cordless Dremel to sand off as much as I can. Well, I could do more, but I don't have patience for sanding sometimes. But I sanded off a lot everywhere where there was armor stuck to him. But I'm just gonna build on those ankle armor or shin armor. But yeah, I'm using Apoxie Sculpt to do my sculpting, and I just cut some lines first. Well, I used parchment paper so that I could roll it out as flat as I wanted it, and then I'm cutting out the pieces of his shin guards, and it's like a two triangle shape together, so I cut those out and then I put them together and then I stick them onto his knee, and turned out alright. Then I use one strip I wrap around his helmet, and then I use a silicone tool to flatten that out and move back over to the shin pad and then back to the helmet because I let it sit for a bit before I put the next layer. It gives less chance of it smudging while I'm working, I guess, something like that. But then I use a silicone tool to just slowly smooth it out a bit, and then I put all over his chest. I shaved off as much as I could, or sanded off, and then I build because he's wearing a shirt, not armor. And then after that dries, it takes 24 hours. I sand it a bit, and then I have Tamiya tape for the first time, and I wrap it around his arm because I'm going to be painting that black. I have a mix of black acrylic primer and black acrylic that I'm using for my base coat, and then some of them is going to stay black, but some is going to get silver painted over it. So covering everything with this black because it's going to be my primer, and black and silver are the only colors I'm adding until I add the belt and the cape, which will be a red. This is Spackling, and I'm using that to fill in any cracks that were left from where I put the Apoxie Sculpt or any little dents or whatever. And I just put a thin layer of that on, just filling everywhere. And after like 15-20 minutes it's ready to sand. So that's just a nail file that I use for sanding stuff like this, because it's already like on a stick and ready to go, and pretty fine grit generally. And this like spackling sand's really easy. Then I go over everything that I added spackling to with the black paint, and I gave the first coat of paint because it helps me see more where I need to put the spackling, and it's good to get 2 coats on because I only put thin coats anyway. Now I'm getting in with the silver, and that's just all the silver details. His helmet, but the front of his mask, or the mouth part of his mask, is cloth and it's black in the comics, but the rest is silver and then black clothes. And he has arm wraps, and what I'm using, it's white but with a little bit of khaki mixed in, so it's just an off-white. I have it from a recent project when I made Old Hob, and his like stomach and part of his face was that color. And I mixed some black and white to get a really dark gray, and now I'm dry brushing onto all his clothes, but I made it so dark that you can't really notice it now. Yeah, it happens. It still helped. There were some spots where there was still white showing, and I got in all there. It looks better than it did before I put this coat on, but didn't have exactly the effect. I should have went again with a little bit lighter and dry brushed a little more. Now I'm on to hockey stick tape. I'm using that as the fabric for his belt because I was wanting to do this guy for a while, but I couldn't find the right color red fabric. And then someone in the comments recently asked me, like, when are you going to do IDW Shredder? And I was like, well, I'm waiting until I find the right fabric. red fabric. This is just a clear coat I'm going over everything with. Then I thought about it and I was like, I know what color I want, so I don't have to wait for the fabric, I'll just make my own. Now I'm making the cape out of hockey stick tape, and so it's sticky side up, and then I'm going over, I just made a V that's going to go around his neck peg, and then I go sticky side to sticky side, and I'm squeezing the tape a bit when I put on this layer so that it has some ruffles in it, and then I trim it down to the size that I want. And for the color I'm using true burgundy because that's the right color that I wanted for it, and I just paint all the white tape that color. I paint one side, the inside of the cape, then I flip it over after I painted the other side, and it took a while to dry because I was mixing a bit of water with the paint just to make it smooth over and get in all, because hockey stick tape has like a cross hatching. And now I use a fine liner to do the detail on the wraps, and this is a synthetic leather I got at the dollar store, and I'm just cutting one long strip that I'm going to cut into two, and it's going to wrap around the bottom of his shoulder, top of his arm, and then that's what I'm going to glue those pieces that I cut off his shoulder. So I was able to reuse those. I just cut off the end of it so they're smaller and they fit on his shoulder, or like on his arm, because that's how he has it in the comics. Yeah, so that's what he looks like. And before you go, I want to remind you, if you leave a comment with the word Sisyphus, you'll be entered to win one of 3 t-shirts that I'm going to be giving away in like 4 or 5 weeks now, when the t-shirts are ready, and the video with the draw will have Sisyphus in it. So I'll be back again soon. Till next week, I'm doing some best action clothes. So until then, remember, always keep your head up. Peace.